For fans in Cleveland, this feels personal. Not just because their team is losing, but because it seems like the Browns have stopped listening. When diehard supporters are letting go of season tickets and giving up seats for $9 or less, it's not about cost. It's about heartbreak. Every empty seat is someone's final straw. And through it all, one name keeps surfacing as the spark that could turn it around: Shedeur Sanders. But instead of hope, fans get vague platitudes and safe, passive decisions from Kevin Stefanski. That silence isn't just frustrating, it's infuriating. Trust in leadership is hard-won and easily lost. And right now, Browns fans are watching it evaporate in real time. If Stefanski and the front office keep ignoring calls for change, they won't just lose games. They'll lose the very foundation of the franchise. It's loyal.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Community. The team needs more than a win. It needs a decision that proves someone is still fighting to fix this. NFL fans are watching in disbelief as Cleveland Browns tickets, actual in-season, regular NFL game tickets, are selling for $6. Not resale, not a promo, just rock-bottom prices reflecting the reality that people don't want to watch this team play. Not at home, not in person, not even if it costs less than a movie ticket and a soda. This is what it looks like when an entire fan base loses faith. The Browns aren't just losing games, they're losing their supporters. The drop in ticket prices isn't a glitch in the market. It's a signal flare. A warning that the bond between team and fans is on life support. Because this isn't about one rough season or a couple of disappointing plays. This is about leadership making the exact wrong moves, or worse, making no moves at all. The atmosphere in Cleveland has shifted from frustrated to fed up. Fans aren't just upset. They're disengaged. They're done being told to be patient while nothing changes. And the biggest target of that frustration is head coach Kevin Stefanski, who's turned answering basic questions into a performance of evasion. Ask about the quarterback situation? You'll get, "I don't have an update." Ask about the team's direction? Expect some vague, non-committal phrase that says absolutely nothing. It's not just unhelpful, it's insulting. At a time when fans are desperate for hope, for clarity, for anything that resembles a plan, the Browns' leadership is giving them silence. Worse, they're doubling down on a direction that clearly isn't working. And the name at the center of that pressure point? Shedeur Sanders. The calls to start Sanders aren't coming out of nowhere. They're not just some trendy online fantasy. They're grounded in a deep exhaustion with what's on the field right now. Fans see Sanders as the one bold move that could jolt this team back to life. And the fact that Stefanski continues to ignore that possibility only adds fuel to the fire. What makes it worse is the lack of communication. If the team had simply explained their reasoning, if Stefanski had provided a straight answer, or if the front office had been transparent about what's really happening, maybe the fans would still be here. Maybe they'd understand. But when your stadium's half empty and your answers are half-hearted, people start to tune out. Not just from the team, but from the entire organization. Because how can fans stay emotionally invested when leadership won't even meet them halfway? The quarterback issue is a lightning rod for everything else that's wrong right now. It's about more than one player. It's about what that player represents: change, energy, effort. Starting Sanders wouldn't just be a football decision. It would be a statement. A sign that this franchise still wants to fight. That it still believes in growth and risk and listening to the people who show up week after week, asking for something better. But what the fans are getting instead is complete resistance to change. And they've had enough. The Browns have never been strangers to rough patches, but this one hits differently. Because it's happening in an era where fans are more vocal, more connected, and more empowered than ever. Social media has become a running scoreboard for public opinion, and right now, that scoreboard is flashing "do something." Except the people in charge seem stuck, trapped in their own indecision, pretending like everything's fine while attendance craters and morale nosedives. What's staggering is how easily this could have gone the other way. One bold decision, one honest press conference, One acknowledgement that what's happening isn't acceptable, and things could have turned. Fans don't expect miracles, but they do expect engagement. They expect leadership to act like it actually wants to improve. And when that doesn't happen, the support collapses. It's happening now. Those $6 tickets? That's the physical proof. Fans don't feel heard. They don't feel respected. And if the team doesn't change course, those cheap seats won't be a one-time story. They'll be the new normal. The fans have been clear. They want action. They want a spark. And they see Sanders as the first real step toward getting it. Leadership's refusal to even entertain that idea is a slap in the face. The worst part? The team still talks like they have time. Like this is just a slump, and the fans will come back when things turn around. But what they're not realizing is that trust is what's slipping away. And once you lose that, winning alone doesn't bring it back. The only way to rebuild that relationship is through transparency, responsiveness, and change. Right now, none of those things are happening. Fans have been asking the same questions for weeks. What's the plan? Why isn't Sanders even being considered? Why are we pretending like everything's normal when tickets are being sold for less than lunch? And every time they ask, they get the same recycled, meaningless lines. This isn't a rebuild year. It's not about waiting for a draft pick or surviving an injury wave. This is about a leadership group that has stopped leading, a coach who refuses to adapt, a franchise that, for some reason, is ignoring every red flag and hoping the fans will just keep showing up anyway. But they won't. Not until something changes. And right now, Sanders represents that change. He's not a guaranteed solution, but he is a sign that someone is paying attention, that someone is willing to try, that someone is awake behind the wheel. Because without a move like that, what is this team really offering? A losing record? A lifeless stadium? A coach who dodges every question? A quarterback room that inspires zero confidence? It's not just underwhelming, it's unsustainable. And if the Browns don't realize that soon, they'll keep bleeding support until there's nothing left to save. This isn't complicated. It's basic leadership. Acknowledge the problem. Communicate your plan. Take action. The Browns aren't doing any of that. And their fans are responding the only way they know how, by walking away. This could still be salvaged. But only if the people in charge stop pretending like silence is a strategy. Because right now, it's the fastest way to irrelevance. Start Sanders. Or explain clearly why that's not happening. But stop hiding behind non-answers and hoping this will pass. Because it won't. Not until the fans are given something real to believe in. And if you've been following this unraveling season as closely as we have, hit that like button. Drop a comment with your thoughts on what the Browns should do next. And if you want more honest, no-spin breakdowns of the biggest moments in sports drama, make sure you're subscribed. Because this story isn't over, and we'll be right here when the next headline drops. The Cleveland Browns are standing on the edge of something no team ever wants to face. Not just a bad season, not just some tough games or fan disappointment, but an existential collapse of fan loyalty. That's not dramatic. That's exactly what this is. And the trigger wasn't a loss on the field. It was a slow-burning disconnect, set off by months of silence, stale decisions, and leadership that looks less like a cohesive NFL operation and more like a group of people quietly hoping no one notices how bad it's gotten. Well, everyone noticed. They noticed when game tickets, NFL game tickets, for a storied franchise in a major football city, plummeted to $6. They noticed when the stadium started looking more like a preseason scrimmage than a Sunday showdown. And they definitely noticed when the coach, Kevin Stefanski, kept feeding them the same blank statements about the team's future, offering zero clarity, zero energy, and zero accountability. What fans want right now isn't perfection. It's direction. And for weeks, they've been offering Stefanski and the front office the same solution. Not demands, not ultimatums, suggestions. Hopeful ones. Centered around one name, Shedeur Sanders. A quarterback with star potential. A spark that could shift the tone, boost morale, and get the fans re-engaged. But instead of listening, the Browns have chosen silence. Not strategic silence, Defensive, dismissive silence. That's what's so frustrating. Not that Sanders hasn't been named the starter yet, but that leadership won't even entertain the idea publicly. Not a word of interest. Not a timeline. Not a glimpse of what's going on behind the curtain. Just vague answers like we're evaluating everything, or no update at this time. And when that kind of emptiness becomes your go-to message, you're telling fans more than you realize. You're telling them they don't matter. That's the real issue. Not the win-loss record, not even the quarterback room. It's the relationship between team and fan breaking apart in real time. And at the center of that collapse is a leadership team that either doesn't know how to respond, or worse, doesn't care to. It's wild when you really think about it. The Browns had a chance to grab the narrative, to take control of the conversation, to be proactive, honest, and bold. But they didn't. And now, they've completely lost control of the story. The fans are writing their own version. The media is too. And every tweet, every empty section in the stadium, every resale ticket listed for less than the cost of parking is a vote of no confidence. And let's be real here. When fans are paying more for nachos than their seat, that's not just a slump. That's a statement. A rebellion. It doesn't have to be like this. The crazy part is how easy it would be to turn this around. Or at least begin to. Leadership just needs to show anything. Some kind of signal that they're listening, adapting, evolving. That they're not locked in a bunker pretending everything's fine. Start with communication. Address the Sanders situation directly. Let fans in. Tell them what the plan is. If you're not starting him yet, explain why. Give people a timeline, a roadmap. Because when fans feel involved, when they feel respected, they're a lot more patient. But when they're ignored, dismissed, or stonewalled, that's when the anger turns into apathy. And once apathy takes over, it's almost impossible to claw it back. Look around the league. Every major turnaround starts with transparency. A front office or coaching staff that takes accountability. A decision, sometimes bold, sometimes unpopular. That signals change. That's how you rebuild trust. Right now, the Browns are signaling nothing. They're letting the season rot while pretending it's a weather delay. That kind of passivity only leads in one direction, downward. And the longer they wait, the more damage is done. This isn't just about Shedeur Sanders. This is about leadership showing that they understand the urgency, that they get how fragile fan trust is. Because what we're seeing now, the plummeting attendance, the bargain basement tickets, the total lack of enthusiasm, that's not just a reaction to performance. That's a rejection of silence. Let's be honest. Cleveland fans have endured far worse seasons than this. What they can't tolerate is being treated like they don't see what's happening. Like they can't read between the lines of every "we're still evaluating" quote. It's insulting. And they're voting with their feet. They're voting with their wallets. And the scoreboard they care about now isn't on the field. It's the one showing how much effort this franchise is willing to put in to get its fans back. The answer so far? Not much. There's a really dangerous assumption here. That fans will just stick around. That no matter what, they'll always come back. But loyalty has limits, especially when it's not reciprocated. And right now, the Browns aren't just testing those limits, they're steamrolling past them. It would be one thing if there were signs of life. If we saw leadership taking swings, even if they didn't always land. But what we're seeing is stagnation, stubbornness. A franchise that seems more concerned with avoiding tough questions than answering them. That's not how you win games, and it's definitely not how you win back fans. You need to do something. Give them a reason to care. Start Sanders, or at least start talking about starting him. Acknowledge that things aren't working. Show that you're willing to break out of the cycle. Because fans don't expect perfection, but they expect movement. And the longer this team pretends that $6 ticket prices are just a blip, the more irreversible this damage becomes. Eventually, it won't matter who the quarterback is. Because no one will be watching. What makes this whole situation even more tragic is that there's still time. Still a chance to pivot. But it requires guts. Not just from Stefanski, but from everyone in the organization. It requires recognizing that leadership isn't about holding the wheel steady when the car is veering off a cliff. It's about knowing when to steer hard in a new direction. Right now, the Browns are frozen, and everyone can see it. So what's it going to take? Another week of empty sections? More footage of fans walking out before halftime? More headlines dragging the organization for its tone-deaf approach? Or will anyone, step up and say, we need to change course? Because that's what this moment demands. Not another round of excuses. Not more vague sound bites. Action. And if they don't, then this isn't a crisis anymore. It's a choice. A choice to go down with the ship, rather than fight for the people who've stayed loyal through everything. But that loyalty doesn't last forever. It's already cracking. The prices prove it. The silence confirms it. And the fans? They're done waiting for a miracle. They're asking for effort, for answers, for change. And if the Browns keep pretending not to hear them, the fans will do the one thing that finally gets management's attention. They'll stop showing up. And at that point, there won't be a Shedeur Sanders miracle big enough to fix what's already broken. The Cleveland Browns have reached a tipping point. Not on the scoreboard. Not in the locker room. In the one place that matters even more, the trust of their fans. And once you lose that, you don't just lose momentum, you lose identity. Let's call this what it is, a full-blown leadership failure. Not because the team is having a tough season. That happens. But because of the refusal, flat-out refusal, to acknowledge what's going wrong and take steps to fix it. Or even talk about it. And now, the fallout is right there for everyone to see. $6 tickets. Near empty stadium sections. A fan base that's not even angry anymore. They're exhausted. That's how apathy begins. And apathy in the NFL is terminal. It's easy to focus on the team's poor performance. But that's just the surface. What's really happening is a slow, public erosion of confidence. Fans feel disconnected, not just from the product on the field, but from the people running it. And at the center of this mess is a coach who won't say anything, and a front office that pretends the fans don't exist. Kevin Stefanski might be a good coach in some settings. But right now, he's giving off the energy of a man trying to manage a fire with a garden hose, while refusing to admit the house is burning down. Let's talk about those post-game pressers. How many times can a coach say, "We're still evaluating," before it means nothing? "We're not ready to comment. I don't have an update." That's not leadership. That's avoidance. That's what happens when an organization is more afraid of making a wrong move than it is of doing nothing. And the Browns are doing nothing. That's what hurts the most. It's not the losing. It's the stagnation, the lack of urgency, the refusal to take bold steps even as the fan base is shouting for a lifeline. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a player right now. He's a symbol of a possible reset, a fresh direction, a spark, not a guaranteed fix, but a chance. And fans? They'll take that chance over silence every single time. Instead, Stefanski and the rest of leadership have decided to bunker down and do what they've been doing. Which, again, is nothing. No changes. No updates. No real conversation with the people who keep this team afloat year after year. People who, by the way, are now watching from their couches instead of the stands. You can't blame them. Why should anyone pay to sit in a stadium when the team's own leadership can't even be bothered to explain its strategy? Why support a system that refuses to evolve? That's what's really driving ticket prices down, not just performance, but the complete absence of hope, of vision, of connection. In today's NFL, fans expect more than wins. They expect authenticity, clarity, and above all, effort. Right now, the Browns are showing none of the above. And let's be honest, this franchise is teetering on the edge of a long-term collapse in credibility. Because this isn't just a bad month, it's a culture problem. The kind that sticks. The kind that players feel, too. Because if fans feel ignored, imagine how the locker room feels. When a coach won't make bold moves or acknowledge reality, what kind of message does that send to the players? That mediocrity is fine? That nothing changes unless it's forced? That's the vibe right now. And it's not going unnoticed. Fans are already calling for change, not just at quarterback, but across the board. And when the most passionate people in your community are the ones begging you to fire your coach, it's no longer just noise. It's a referendum. But again, silence. Stefanski isn't the only one responsible for the mess, but he's the most visible. And in the absence of communication from ownership or upper management, he becomes the symbol of everything that's gone wrong. The refusal to start Sanders. The lack of accountability. The avoidance of tough decisions. He's the face of the void. And fans are done staring into that void. What they want now is movement, momentum, an indication that this team isn't sleepwalking through the season. That someone somewhere understands the damage being done, not just to this year's record, but to the franchise's long-term reputation. Because that's what's at stake here. Not just seats at a stadium, not just jersey sales, but the brand. A brand that's been built over decades of passion and pain. A brand that means something to the people of Cleveland. And now, that meaning is starting to slip away. What's wild is how quickly it could turn. Start Sanders. Make a move. Send a message. Not just to the fan base, but to the players and the rest of the league. That this team isn't okay with being a punchline. That it hears the people. That it still knows how to be bold. Instead, we get silence. And while they're silent, the fans are speaking louder than ever by not showing up. That's what this $6 ticket price means. It's not just about economics. It's about emotion. About a fan base that's finally had enough. That's no longer willing to invest in a team that won't invest back. The Browns could still write a new ending to this story. It doesn't have to end in collapse. But they're running out of time. Every week they stall, more fans walk away. And once they're gone, they don't always come back. Because when hope dies, so does loyalty. And right now, hope is dying in Cleveland. There's still a chance, still a sliver of room, to turn this ship around. But it's going to take more than sound bites and sideline interviews. It's going to take action, clarity, and yes, probably a new quarterback under center. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a name in a conversation anymore. He's the only thing people are still curious about. The one move that still feels like it could matter. And if the Browns continue to ignore that possibility, then they're not just failing to manage a team. They're failing to manage a legacy. So, if you're tired of watching leadership sit on their hands while fans check out, make your voice heard below. Should Sanders start? Is Stefanski still the right guy? And how long should fans keep holding on before expecting real change? Hit that like button, leave your comment, and subscribe if you're done settling for silence. Because the Browns might be quiet, but we won't be.